Governor Andrew Cuomo spoke out about the recent rise in attacks against Asian Americans in a statement after two women were attacked by a hammer-wielding stranger in Manhattan, New York. "We will do everything in our power to protect those who are vulnerable to these attacks and to hold cowardly perpetrators accountable to the full extent of the law." Surveillance footage caught the two women walking along a stretch of sidewalk in the Hell's Kitchen area of Manhattan when a woman swinging a hammer approaches them from behind.
It shows that woman viciously attacking two Asian women with a hammer.
The woman appears to be barefoot as she the hammer into the of one of the women, temporarily dazing her. According to police, she began screaming at the two women to take their masks off. The other woman was not harmed. Police are still investigating, but they have no leads so far. The target of the hammer attack was treated at an area hospital for skull lacerations. The woman preferred to be unidentified, but both expressed shock.
I live here like 2 years. I never faced this kind of thing.
The attacker fled the scene. Anyone with information is asked to call the NYPD's Crime Stoppers hotline at 1-800-577-TIPS or 1-800-577-8477. This incident happened only one block from the luxury apartment building doorstep where a man knocked over and repeatedly kicked an elderly Asian woman as witnesses watched. The surveillance video shows a large man towering over the small woman as he knocks her down and begins delivering powerful. All the while, apartment staff stand by and watch, offering no help. Police said the man screamed anti-Asian sentiments as he kicked the woman in the stomach and skull. At least 3 people stood in the apartment building lobby and watched the attack. One person even closed the door as it was taking place. 2 employees have been fired from the apartment building. The culprit, a man on lifetime parole for his mom's stabbing, identified as 38-year-old Brandon Elliott. He was apprehended and charged in relation to the incident. In related news across the country, police arrested a man in San Francisco's mid-market area for stabbing 2 Asian American women without provocation. The women told police they were waiting for a bus when the man approached and pulled out his blade, stabbing both women in the midsection. They were taken to an area hospital for treatment where they gave police a description of the man that led to his arrest. Not everyone lives through these horrifying attacks. Visha Ratanapakdi was taking an early morning walk in San Francisco when he was shoved to the ground by Antoine Watson. The security camera footage caught by a neighbor shows Ratanapakdi slowly walking along a sidewalk when Watson sprints across the street and forcefully shoves him. He is hit with such force he was thrown backward and slammed to the pavement. Authorities discovered that Watson had been breaking into a car near where Ratanapakdi was walking. When he noticed what Watson was doing, he changed directions. That's when Watson charged him. According to witnesses, Watson was yelling at him as he bolted across the street. "Why are you looking at me?" Ratanapakdi received multiple injuries from the fall and lost his life as a result. Watson's defense team states that the incident was not racially motivated. They claim it was only an act to protect himself from being discovered breaking into the car and that Ratanapakdi was wearing a hat and mask, so he could not have been profiled. Noel Quintana, a Filipino man, was attacked as he rode a Manhattan train in early 2021. An emotionally deranged man on the L train with him started behaving irrationally. When he started kicking at Quintana's backpack, he asked him to stop. The man jumped up and slashed at Quintana with a long blade, ripping open his face from cheek to cheek. As the assailant ran off, Quintana was able to stumble to the ticket booth where help was called.
I was scared because I thought I was going to die and nobody helped me.
Mayor Bill de Blasio refused to attribute the incident to racial profiling. We can talk about facts and encourage the people to understand the facts, or we can just create fear for the sake of fear. Atlanta, Georgia saw a rash of Asian-owned spa attacks in 2021. 8 people lost their lives, 6 were Asian women. Robert Aaron Long was taken into custody later the same day. He legally purchased his firearm just hours before the incident. When Long first arrived at Young's Asian Massage, He sat in the parking lot for an hour before calmly walking inside, unloading his firearm, and fleeing the scene. Police arrived only moments after he left to find 2 people had lost their lives in the attack. 3 others were rushed to the hospital, 2 of which later passed away from their injuries. An hour later, and 30 miles away, Long arrived at Gold Massage Spa, where he burst in with his firearm and took the of 3 Asian women and ran quickly away. Police were still on the scene when they received notice of a 3rd emergency across the street at aromatherapy spa, where they discovered another woman fatally injured. Long had opened fire on the employee, who opened the door at the aromatherapy spa, jumped in his truck, and sped off. After the first incident at Young's Asian Massage, police released surveillance camera footage of Long approaching the business. His parents recognized him and called the police. Authorities were able to ascertain from his parents that Long's truck had a GPS locator and tracked his location. Approximately 3.5 hours after the attacks ended, authorities spotted Long driving south on I-75 on his way to Florida. He was apprehended and taken into custody, where he explained his actions. Long told police that he had perpetrated his vile actions because he was a nymphomaniac and felt the massage parlors were exasperating the problem. Authorities later found out he had spent time in a rehabilitation facility for the issue. Long is a deeply religious man, heavily involved in the Southern Baptist religion, and felt that his problem made him a less devout practitioner. Long stressed that he had no racial intent behind his actions, but some people aren't convinced. Authorities are still investigating how to classify this incident. Cases like these are happening more and more across the country, and a new rash of hate crimes against people of Asian descent. American citizens who have never been out of the country are being attacked simply because of how they look. Asian Americans are facing race-related attacks at a much higher rate than before the pandemic. According to the NYPD, activities motivated by anti-Asian sentiment skyrocketed 1,900% in New York since the start of 2020. Studies indicate this rise in hatred towards Asian communities is a product of the COVID-19 pandemic. As the virus originated in China, many people in the West have come to associate anyone of Asian descent with COVID-19. This is clearly a dangerous stereotype that continues to cause immeasurable harm to a huge portion of our population that has done nothing to deserve this. A few heroes, however, have emerged in this newly discovered American drama. Stop AAPI Hate, an organization to educate and find ways to stop anti-Asian behavior, was started at the beginning of the pandemic. AAPI is an abbreviation of Asian American Pacific Islander. A new documentary film about anti-Asian hate, The Race Epidemic, was produced and written by Ronald Wong and directed by Tony Hsiu. Its goal is to put the history of Asian American discrimination into context in an effort to find effective ways to stop it. While these instances have been happening with alarming frequency all over the country, California and New York have seen the largest number. In response, President Biden signed an anti-Asian discrimination executive order. The problem is still new, and without a firm plan to extinguish it, we are likely to see more horrifying instances like these. If you're interested in true cases like these, both current and historic, stay tuned. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you like this video and subscribe so you never miss a story.